Hello, I want to talk to you today about unrequited love. Now, I'm going to tell you my story. I'm sure you've got your own story, and I want to hear that as well down below. I also want to point out that there is a group on Yahoo, which may be dormant now, called groups.yahoo.com/group/unrequited love, and I'll put that down there as well. Okay, now, when I was about 16, I had a dream. That dream was that I was living with a blonde woman in a flat somewhere. I didn't know where. That woman was a Greenpeace activist, and that I died in a toilet. The link to the video about that is there. And that she was very upset about this. A couple of years later, I went to university, and I found eventually that there was indeed a blonde woman there who was a Greenpeace activist, and to my mind looked basically identical to the person I saw in my dream, and I fell for her. Unfortunately and unsurprisingly, she turned out to be with somebody else and had been with that person for 5 years by that point. Unfortunately, although I tried very hard to establish the reality of the situation before I went for it, as it were, I ended up getting completely fixated on her, and I don't think that's a healthy situation. Of course it's not a healthy situation, but it happens. So, over the next 2 years at university, I tried very hard to lose interest in her. I tried very hard to look for other women, but the longer it went on for and the harder I tried, I just couldn't shake this feeling for her, and it just went on and on and on. And eventually she split up with her bloke, and she at that point I decided that because I was unworthy of her, basically, that I would poison my reputation with her, and told her best friend about it, because her best friend hated me at the time. No offence to you now, you're fine. It's just that did happen, and I thought she would put this in the worst possible light, would hear it from another person, and therefore I could guarantee her happiness without me, because I didn't think I was suitable. And I think it's clear to anyone who knew us at the time that we weren't suitable. Unfortunately, that didn't solve the problem, and it went on and on and on, and it carried on, and it was obsessive. And it fed on my desire for it to end, and it carried on and on. And eventually I did get over it, but not without a lot of heartache, not without hurting a lot of other people that I went out with. And what I really wanted was for her to be a friend, so that we could have a different kind of love, but she wasn't open to that. And so the obsession continued. And as I say, eventually I did get over it. I also made a video, not a video, I made a documentary about it, which was on Channel 4. And besides that, I suppose what am I going to say? There is this woman, Dorothy Tennov, who is now dead. She came up with the concept of limerence, which is that sometimes you fall for people without regarding it as either infatuation or love, and it carries on and on and on if something happens to frustrate the resolution of that situation, which is what happened with me. There are records of people that have been going through this for 65 years. This is a serious problem for them, and it's a serious problem for the object of their affections. It's also a serious problem for anyone that they might have relationships with, and for any potential that they might have had, which is now unrealised in their lives. Therefore, it is a serious problem that needs to be dealt with. Now, what advice have I got to give you about that? Well, I suppose the advice is, if it does happen to you, recognise that that person might not be right for you, but don't fight it, because if you fight it, it will make it worse. It feeds on your fighting. What you have to do is you have to be calm, step back and say, yes, this is how I feel. This is going to carry on for as long as it carries on, and there will be a time beyond at which point I will get beyond this. But don't hate yourself for it, and don't fight it, because it loves you fighting it. and it will get stronger. That is the way to get rid of it. You just need to be relaxed about it and say, okay, accept myself as feeling this, and then it will go. I'm not going to stand back and say I wish I hadn't made that documentary, because I'm glad I made the documentary, because other people need to know that they're not alone and need not to feel guilty or ashamed about this, whereas obviously it shouldn't be encouraged. That is how to discourage it and how to defeat it. So yes, I made a documentary about it, and that's just what happened, and I don't think that was wrong either. Okay? Happy now, married, 2 children, all that stuff.